MLB legends don't agree on much, but when it comes to Shohei Ohtani, they keep repeating one thing: baseball has never seen anyone like this before. Not in this era, not at this scale, and not with this kind of global impact. When Hall of Famers, MVPs, and longtime broadcasters say even Babe Ruth might not be a fair comparison, you know we've crossed into completely new territory. This is the Show Insider, and today's deep dive is all about one question: why do MLB legends insist Shohei Ohtani is not like anyone else in baseball? When legends talk, you listen. Start with the voices that have seen everything. ESPN collected reactions from players and veterans across the league, and the theme was the same. They talk about Ohtani with a level of awe usually reserved for myth, not reality. You hear phrases like video game player, cheat code, and a combination of an ace and a cleanup hitter in one body. Guys who've been in the league for a decade admit they still turn into fans when he steps onto the field. Broadcasters and historians echo the same sentiment. Longtime voices like Bob Costas and historians who have studied the Babe Ruth era say what Ohtani is doing in this era, full-time two-way domination against modern pitching and hitting, is flat-out unprecedented. They're not just impressed, they're recalibrating how they talk about the sport itself because of him. That doesn't happen often. Usually new stars get dropped into existing categories. The next Trout, the next Kershaw. With Ohtani, the line is always the same: we've never seen this. But that's just the surface. 2 jobs, 1 body. The biggest reason legends see him as unique is simple but insane. When you really think about it, Shohei Ohtani is performing at elite levels as both a hitter and a pitcher at the same time, in the toughest version of baseball the sport has ever seen. Babe Ruth is the only name that ever comes up as a comparison, but even the Ruth comparison breaks down fast once people look closer. Ruth pitched early in his career and then transitioned into being almost entirely a hitter, dominating in one lane at a time. Ohtani has continuously taken on both roles in the same season, often in the same week, and sometimes in the same game, while facing bullpens full of relievers throwing upper 90 seconds with wipeout sliders. The legends don't dismiss Ruth, but they point out that Ohtani is doing his work in an era where everything velocity, travel, scouting, pressure is cranked up. In interviews, former players who tried pitching and hitting at the highest level admit that just one of those jobs can overwhelm you mentally and physically. Ohtani is putting up numbers that would make him a superstar if he only hit or only pitched. Doing both at once isn't just rare, it's historically absurd. The load legends keep bringing up. When you listen to ex-pitchers and Hall of Fame arms talk about Ohtani, they always come back to the workload. Pedro Martinez, one of the most dominant pitchers of his era, has spoken about how exhausting it was just to focus on pitching every 5th day, studying hitters, maintaining mechanics, managing soreness, and staying locked in mentally. Then he looks at Ohtani doing that, and on top of it, carrying a lineup as one of the most feared power bats in the game, and he flat out calls it otherworldly. Other veterans talk not just about physical fatigue, but mental bandwidth. A starting pitcher has days planned around bullpen sessions, film study, and recovery. Everyday hitters have an emotional grind of daily at-bats, slumps, and adjustments. Ohtani is juggling both sets of responsibilities in 2 languages, under global media scrutiny, with expectations from both his MLB team and an entire country back home. That's what legends mean when they say he's not just a great talent, but an impossible role made real. Stats can't catch up. Modern analytics love Shohei Ohtani, but even advanced stats struggle to tell his full story. WAR Ops Plus, WRC Plus, ERA Plus, all of them show he's one of the most valuable players in the sport by a wide margin. But every model still has a basic assumption baked in: you're either a pitcher or a hitter. Ohtani breaks that assumption. He's essentially taking up 1 roster spot and filling 2 all-star roles. If you tried to replace him, you'd need an ace-level starter and a middle-of-the-order slugger, and you'd still need a bench spot those 2 players would occupy separately. That kind of roster efficiency is something legends and executives talk about quietly. It's not just that he's great, it's that his existence changes how you can build a team. That's why some collectors and analysts talk about Ohtani versus Babe Ruth, not just as a hype comparison, but a real best-ever debate in the making, even before his career is over. Card and memorabilia markets reflect that people treat his stuff like early Ruth, not just another star. How other players talk about facing him. One of the clearest signs of how unique Ohtani is comes from how current players describe facing him. Hitters talk about him on the mound like they talk about the nastiest starters of their era. Elite velocity, late life, breaking balls that don't look real, and sequences that feel like a video game AI has scouted your weaknesses. Then, pitchers talk about facing him in the box as if they're dealing with a top-tier slugger. Elite plate coverage, power to all fields, and the ability to change an entire game with one swing. You'll hear guys say things like, "We take him for granted," and "If any other player did what he just did, we'd never stop talking about it." That's the wild part. Ohtani's nights that would have been all-time moments for other players sometimes feel like just another Tuesday in an Ohtani season. Broadcasters lean into the mythology. On national games, you hear jokes that he's from another planet, or that he's a created player with all sliders at 99. When legends call you a unicorn, fans might think it's just branding. But when opponents who have to actually face you say it, that hits different. The World Baseball Classic moment. If there's one moment that captures Ohtani's uniqueness and global impact in a single clip, it's the final at-bat of the 2023 World Baseball Classic. Ohtani representing Japan on the mound. Mike Trout, his Angels teammate and one of the greatest hitters of his generation, in the box, one-run game, championship on the line, the world watching. He struck Trout out with a devastating mix of power and movement, and that at-bat instantly became one of the most replayed sequences in modern baseball history. Legends and broadcasters framed it not as just a great moment, but as a symbol. It was the face of MLB at the plate and the most unique talent in the sport on the mound, and they happened to be teammates brought into a collision course by international play. That was when a lot of people stopped comparing and started accepting, this isn't just a star, this is something else. After the WBC, Ohtani's status in Japan and worldwide hit an entirely different level. The legends who already praised him used that moment as proof of concept. Under maximum pressure, in the biggest possible moment, Ohtani delivered as both a hitter and a pitcher on a global stage. The pushback and the debate. Of course, whenever someone gets this much praise, not everyone is comfortable with it. There's a corner of fans and even some players who feel Ohtani is overhyped, or that people are too eager to crown him over Ruth, Mays, or other all-time greats before his career is complete. Some discussions online slide into complaints that broadcasters talk about him too much, or that they forget he hasn't won this or that team trophy yet. But here's what's interesting. That backlash usually triggers even stronger responses from respected voices. When skeptics question the hype, legends come back with context. The era differences, the travel, the level of competition, the physical demands of being two-way at this speed and volume. Instead of tempering the praise, the pushback has often made analysts more precise and bolder about why Ohtani stands alone. In some ways, that debate is part of what makes his story compelling. You don't trigger, is he really better than Babe Ruth? Arguments just by being good. You trigger them by breaking the frameworks people are used to using. Off the field and global reach. Another reason legends say he's unlike anyone else is what he represents beyond box scores. Ohtani is a genuine global superstar, carrying not just a fan base in one city, but a massive following across Japan, North America, and beyond. Every game he plays pulls in international coverage. Every decision what team he signs with, whether he pitches in the World Baseball Classic, how he recovers from injury is treated as major news in multiple countries. Older legends talk about how media pressure was intense even in their day, but Ohtani is operating in a fully connected, social media-fueled, 24/7 news environment where every outing is clipped, analyzed, memed, and debated worldwide. And he's doing all that while representing two cultures, two leagues, and two fan bases with different expectations and perspectives. That's why you see former players praise not just his talent, but his composure. He rarely shows up in headlines for the wrong reasons. He handles interviews with calm, answers in Japanese and English, and balances national pride with professional obligations. Legends recognize how hard that is. Why legends keep saying, we may never see this again. When you put all of this together, the two-way dominance, the era, the workload, the global spotlight, the pressure, the numbers, MLB legends come back to a single conclusion. Shohei Ohtani is doing something that is not just rare, but almost structurally impossible. It's not that no one else has ever been talented enough. It's that the modern game is built on specialization, and he's shredding that rulebook in real time. Hall of Famers and long-tenured voices in the game keep saying variations of the same thing. Enjoy this now, because even if the next generations chase him, the combination of timing, skill, mindset, opportunity, and health that allowed this to happen might not line up again for a very long time, if ever. For them, it's not just that he's elite at two roles. It's that he's redefined what one player can be asked to do in a sport that thought it had its limits figured out. What this means for his place in history. So where does that leave Shohei Ohtani's legacy right now? Most legends hesitate to declare a greatest of all time while someone is still in their prime, and that's fair. Careers are long, things can change. But they also don't dodge the implications. If Ohtani stays even remotely close to this level for a big chunk of his career, the conversation about all-time rankings won't be able to ignore him. What they say instead is that in terms of uniqueness, he's already at the top. There have been better pure hitters, better pure pitchers, and maybe players with longer resumes for now. But in terms of no one else did this like this at this level, Ohtani has already carved out his own category. And that's really what not like anyone else in baseball means when it comes from legends who've seen generations come and go. It's not empty hype. It's recognition that the sports rulebook for what a single player is allowed to be has been permanently rewritten, and Ohtani is the one holding the pen. For fans, that means one thing. Every time he steps on the field, you're not just watching a star. You're watching history being drafted in real time, in a language the game is still learning how to speak. If this video made you see Shohei Ohtani in a new way, that's exactly what the Show Insider is all about. You're not just watching a star, you're watching a player even MLB legends say has no real comparison. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to subscribe to the Show Insider, hit like, and drop a comment telling us where you rank Ohtani all time and who you want us to cover next. This is the Show Insider, where baseball's biggest stars, craziest rumors, and untold stories get broken down like nowhere else.